Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Just want to give it a couple more minutes before we start the presentation. We've got a lot of people signed up, so we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll go from there. Thanks so much. All right. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Again, there may be some stragglers kind of coming in during the presentation, but we just wanted to kind of start based off everybody's time so we can kind of go through this presentation and also give enough time for questions at the end. My name is Josh, and I will be actually working on the chat function. So if you have questions in the chat that I can answer with spec sheets and things like that, I'll be able to send those to you. If it is a question that we would like to kind of keep with the bigger group, we'll actually make sure that there's time at the end, and I'll kind of whiteboard those and put those in a little bit later. So we will have, you're welcome to do questions and let us know what your concerns are if there's anything you need from us as well. Duration of the presentation is going to be about 40 minutes or so, depending on questions and the interaction from you guys. So just want to thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to present this to you. I wanted to introduce myself and Travis Rasch. My name is Josh Morse. I'm based out of the Seattle area. My role is sales and application specialist. So I work with mechanical engineers and contractors for basically specification, technical support, and kind of everything. I like to say everything behind the spec sheet, I guess is the best way to put it. And then we have Travis Rasch. He is our group product manager for the Fresh Air Systems based out of our Hartford location, though his heart's split between Drummondville and Hartford because he's has a team up there as well. So thank you, Travis, for your time, and take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, Josh. And again, thank you to all that have joined. Appreciate taking your time out of your day. And we will, as Josh mentioned, we'll go ahead and jump into the new interior ready version of our BROAN ONE Series. So just a reminder of those that are maybe new to BROAN. BROAN has been in the ventilation business for over 90 years now. We are in several different segments within the residential ventilation business with exhaust ventilation products, anything from residential to light commercial. We have a full line of kitchen ventilation products, dehumidification, connected indoor quality, and today our focus will be fresh air systems. When we set out and established what we wanted to achieve with the new BROAN ONE Series, spent a lot of time out in the field interacting with all the different stakeholders, whether that was in multifamily settings, townhome settings, or even single-family settings. And really the key message that came back, or the feedback we received in talking to all those different stakeholders, is, given my application, how do I get to ONE ERV? And so from an engineer standpoint, as you have different plans in your different applications, how do I design and specify one ERV model? From a distribution and contractor standpoint, how am I able to order, stock, and distribute one ERV? And finally, from the installing contractor standpoint, the builder standpoint, ultimately homeowner standpoint, is how am I able to install and ultimately maintain one ERV? And what that led to is the BROAN ONE Series. And it's really taking that next step in the evolution of an ERV. This ERV is going to be low profile in design, meaning it's going to be less than 10 inches in overall height. This was a critical dimension, particularly when you're in those bulkheads or those ceiling cavities, where, again, the need for a low profile to maximize, whether that's ceiling space or just ultimately free up some floor space, having the ability to physically put this into those tighter applications was very beneficial. Recovery efficiency. So we understand the need for higher recovery efficiency, or SRE. And basically, this is the ability for this product to temper the incoming outdoor air with the outgoing stale air from the home or the dwelling. And so for those that are not familiar, that percentage has completely increased over time. 80 plus SRE is kind of the upper echelon when it comes to this type of product. And you can see there our overall performance being above that, or 84% SRE. With those different applications in mind, again, coming from maybe a 500 square foot studio apartment all the way up to that 3,000 plus square foot, maybe single family home, the need to, again, in the spirit of one, having the ability to have a wide range of CFM to meet those different applications. And so we're using ECM motors. With those ECM motors, we're able to incrementally change the CFM from 35 all the way up to 155 CFM at 0.2 static in 1 CFM increments. So depending on the plan, depending on the number of bedrooms, you have the ability to adjust the CFM of this product in those 1 CFM increments within that range. Filtration. So understanding filtration levels, the required amount has increased. This product comes standard with washable MERV 8 filters, and we also have an optional 2-inch thick MERV 13 filter. So for those that maybe in California and other areas of the North America, you may require a thicker MERV 13 filter for your supplier. Do know we do have a 2-inch thick MERV 13 optional filter that can be put into this product. Virtuo, so Virtuo technology, we'll go a little bit deeper into what Virtuo means. It is a technology we launched in 2020 into another platform you may be familiar with, is the AI series platform. So Virtuo provides a number of benefits that we will cover here shortly. It was also important as we launched this new platform to make sure we had full capability with our current wall controls used with those AI series units. And so we have a full suite of main wall controls, from simple rocker style switches that have a number of different functions, all the way up to a fully touchscreen digital wall control that has a number of different features within it, such as scheduling, such as smart mode, etc., to really give that homeowner, that dwelling occupant, a real full immersive experience. We also have what we call override or boost controls. These are simply going to take the unit from its minimum speed setting or its continuous CFM setting up to that max speed setting. And you can do this in different durations of time, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, or 60 minutes, depending on how many clicks is pushed for that particular wall control. So again, taking that feedback from the field, understanding different applications is ultimately how we got to these key specs within this new BROAN ONE Series platform. Something that's unique for the BROAN ONE Series and is featured in our new interior ready model is we have an integrated switch that allows the airflow configuration to be selected in the field, meaning we can take the airflow from what I'll call a standard airflow to a mirrored airflow with the movement of that switch. So for those that are familiar with or maybe work within particularly multifamily applications or townhome applications where it's very common for a floor plan to get mirrored across like a shared wall or maybe across a corridor, you have found the right spot for that ERV. Ductwork looks very clean on the left side of this upper image. we try to take that same location for the ERV, try to take that same SKU and simply put it there. As you can see, now we need to physically rotate all the ductwork 180 degrees because our outdoor air ducts are now on the opposite side in this particular example. And so what we can do in these types of applications with that infield selectable airflow configuration is simply move that switch. So we can maintain the product location. So we've decided it's best based on the plans. This is the right spot for this ERV. We can then maintain that location from floor plan to floor plan and not concerned with getting that ductwork routing more complicated as you go from one plan to the next. From a model specification standpoint, so as you're putting together those ERV schedules, we're not concerned with this is the model number being called out for this floor plan. We have a different model number called out for that floor plan. It can always stay consistent with what model is being specified on that schedule, which ultimately leads to providing a consistent install configuration for the contractor, whoever's doing the install work. They're not concerned with, hey, did I bring the right box to that unit for that install? Or from a distribution standpoint, you can consistently forecast and keep on your shelf the right SKU because it's only one SKU you're really worried about. You're not having to forecast this job needs 50 of this, 50 of that. It's always going to be that one SKU because of this infield selectable airflow configuration feature. Virtuo. So I talked about a little bit Virtuo before. Virtuo is basically three things. And the first of that is the auto balancing step. So from an installing contractor standpoint, in the commissioning standpoint, the first time this unit gets powered on, it's going to go through basically a boot up sequence and provide to that installing contractor what the maximum CFM the unit can achieve is, given the duct routing, the location, terminations, etc. So they're going to get that real-time number. Along with that CFM value that's flashing is one of the two house icons will be flashing along with that. That's going to indicate on which of the two airstreams, meaning the supply airstream or the exhaust airstream, which of those two is more restricted, and the reasoning that you are hitting that CFM that's displayed on that screen. Once the commissioning has been done, that is going to stay balanced, meaning once we have set the maximum CFM and the minimum CFM, and we put it into one of those two speeds, the unit is going to continue to adjust and detect changes in the conditions and adapt in real time. And so let's say we have an example, we've set it to 60 CFM as our continuous run number. Maybe over time, maybe that outdoor air filter isn't getting maintained as expected. And so the unit's going to detect that there's a change or there's a higher restriction than it was originally set up to. And the unit's going to use various features inside of it to always get back to that set CFM. And that's a value you're going to see in real time on that LCD screen. It is a value you can adjust as you see fit during that commissioning process. And again, we're not requiring any tools to be used during the commissioning. So if you think about older products or different products out in the market where you may have to be taking pressure measurements across the recovery core and then either having to manual balance with balancing dampers or having to change motor speeds within the product, that's all done within the BROAN ONE Series with the Virtuo technology. And all that interaction is done with that LCD screen and the related buttons in that area. So we're not asking for any kind of tools to be used during that commissioning process. And as you can imagine, during this process, we're saving the installing contractor time by doing that diagnostic right away, providing that CFM value, making it very easy to select those CFM values and ultimately balance the unit. So we're able to realize a time savings per install. So particularly in this multifamily applications where you might have 100 units needing this type of product, as you can incrementally save that time, you can ultimately either quote that job more competitively or again provide a little bit of cushion when it comes to that quoting process. And the final piece is the artificial intelligence. Again, this was launched in 2020. It's something our engineering team had been working on for many years prior to then. Really what it comes down to is our engineering team has basically taught this product through thousands of different scenarios in using the various components within. How do we get back to that set CFM we did at the very beginning is? And so as the unit runs into a scenario we haven't, for lack of a better term, taught it, it's going to use those different variables that we allow it to get back to that set CFM and then log that to understand, hey, the next time I run into this type of situation, I can act more quickly knowing what I learned the last time around. So those are really the three key aspects of Virtuo technology. Again, easing the overall installation and balancing process, knowing that the unit's going to continue to self-adjust as over the life of the product, and ultimately knowing that the unit's going to learn from those types of actions. So we talk about the Broan One. We're now introducing our interior ready version. So this is a model within the ONE Series line that's going to come with a pre-finished access door and trim kit. So as you can see there on the right side, an application where the ERV is physically installed, in this case in a laundry room. You're going to get full access to the unit, the interior of the unit. Also, for those that are working maybe in the state of California or starting to hear about the term fault indicator display, or FID, do know that this unit is fully FID compliant because within it there is an integrated LED indicator light if there's a fault with the system. How we designed the LCD screen cover on the pre-finished access door allows that LED or that amber light to illuminate through that hole, and ultimately alerts that dwelling occupant that there is a fault with the system. So some of our previous models, as well as other models in the market, you may require a separate wall control to provide that indication that there's a fault. With this new interior ready design, it's not required. So you're going to get that fault indicator display right on the unit itself once it's installed in an accessible location. So as you can imagine, this provides a lot of location flexibility. So as there's a change or move to the use of these types of products, ERVs, maybe our floor plans and our overall designs didn't accommodate, the need for this type of product in the related ductwork. Now you have the ability to use ceiling space or wall space to physically put this unit into. And so we're not asking for floor space. We're not taking up that precious space inside that mechanical room. As a builder, you're wanting to sell on square footage. And so we're not taking up any of that floor space. So that allows you more flexibility on where you can physically install this product and ultimately provide access to whether it is that dwelling occupant or that servicing contractor. The last piece is, making sure that the install quality is consistent. And so the unit comes with a easy to install pre-finished trim kit. We'll go into a little bit of those details and what that trim kit all entails. We were also mindful that some of the feedback we heard from the field is, making sure this product's typically installed during that rough-in process. And so making sure that the mounting bracket locations can easily make the unit level to the structure in which it's mounted to, as well as accommodate different, whether it's drywall thickness, type increments, so 1/2 inch or 5/8 material, making sure that once that unit's fully installed, the drywall is in, the trim kit goes up, everything looks nice and flush, tight up against that ceiling or wall surface. And again, just to give you an idea of what that would look like from above, again, this is in a 24 on center ceiling joist type application. And again, those brackets were designed in such a way that, it fits within those ceiling joist applications. We'll go through a little bit of dimensions later, but as you can imagine, you have full access to everything you would need from a maintenance and servicing standpoint, all within the door opening itself. So that recovery core can, slide down. There's a retention feature within the core itself. You can slide that down, get access to those filters, any kind of wiring connections, any type of service work that you may need to do. That's all accessible within that door opening. The door itself does slide off its hinge after about 10 degrees of rotation. So you can get that completely out of the way. Again, providing that overall ease of access for, again, whether it's a dwelling occupant or that servicing contractor. So give a little bit more detail on that trim kit, the install of this unit. So if we're looking straight into the ducts in this particular instance, again, we've got our truss or joist or a stud bay there. That unit's going to use those brackets. As you can see on the bottom side of this slide here, we have different sets of holes to dictate the thickness of that drywall material or whatever that material is for the ceiling of the wall. Those sets of holes are on all four corners. The brackets that come physically with the product are angled brackets in which you would attach to those sets of holes, given the thickness of that ceiling or wall material. And then that unit would physically attach to that structure, again, whether it's that truss, that joist, that stud. And then we've got our ceiling or wall material. and ultimately we have that trim kit. And that trim kit's going to use basically have within it, it's going to come packaged with the unit. So the unit coming out of the box is going to have a separate box within it that contains the trim kit and that LCD screen cover, along with the related hardware required. That separate box is going to have instructions on it on how to set up the unit. It's going to be physically taped to all four corners of the door. So it's acting as kind of a protection for that pre-finished white door surface, as well as making sure it's there coming out of the box and ultimately through the entire assembly process of the ERV. So as you can see there, the trim kit comes in 4 pieces. Essentially, the short ends are the same, the long ends are the same, and then there are pre-finished white screws. So the short ends slide into the long ends, and there is a self-tapping screw that will attach those 4 pieces together. The retention springs come physically already within the trim kit, already attached to those short pieces. So as you can see there, what the assembled trim kit would look like. And then very similar to what you would do with like a bath fan grill, you're going to go ahead and compress those spring ends and basically slide it into, there's a rectangular cutout on the housing in which those spring ends would slide into. And as the unit trim kit goes closer to the ceiling or wall material, basically those springs would retract back out, providing tension between that trim kit and that ceiling or wall material. To give you an idea what this looks like kind of through the different steps, as I mentioned, this is typically going to be installed in the rough-in process. You can see there the protection material on the door itself. Again, this is the time in which you're going to physically mount it to the structure. You're going to route your ductwork, make your wiring connections, etc. We then go into the drywall and tape. So we're going to make our cutout around the unit, tape that up, do any kind of finishing we need around the unit itself, and then finally come to the texture and paint process. Again, the unit comes with a pre-finished matte white door and trim. You can texture and paint that as you see fit. Otherwise, you can leave it as is and know that it is like I said, an off-white matte finish to kind of blend in with your typical whites that you would use during the building process. So again, just kind of showing the different steps here and how the unit kind of progresses from that rough-in stage all the way to that finished piece here. Just a different application, just showing it again. This is a bathroom application. Other areas to consider, maybe it's a closet. It can fit within a 24-inch deep closet, hallways, mudrooms, mechanical room ceilings. Again, you have that freedom because of the ability to put it inside that ceiling cavity or that wall cavity. And with the pre-finished door and trim kit, you have that flexibility. So if I'm thinking, multifamily applications, again, floor space is a premium. Not uncommon to have other mechanical systems, typically in that bathroom area, trying to get it away from, the main living spaces. Perfect application for that, where you're going to have full access to without being too intrusive into the main living spaces. So if we kind of do a full loop here, we talk about simplifying that process. So we've got a code compliant, high performing unit. We've got virtual technology to ease the overall install process, maintain the integrity of that install, as well as, again, take care of itself over the life of the unit. We've got that high recovery efficiency. So when it comes to that code compliance or those energy efficiency programs, we're going to check those boxes with the recovery efficiency as well as the fan efficacy. So with those ECM motors, we're going to get a very high CFM per watt. So the unit itself is not going to be using a lot of wattage to operate over the life of it. So we're going to be able to produce a lot of CFM for the electricity in which we're using. We've got that wide CFM range. So again, we've got that 35 all the way up to that 155. And we can adjust that in increments. So from a design and a specification standpoint, again, this is a one type of model in which you can adjust accordingly to meet those different application needs based on the floor plan, etc. That in-field selectable airflow configuration. So you saw how that simplified the overall design process in providing that consistent install between plans to plans. And then finally, the versatile mounting option. So again, this can be mounted vertically on a wall with the ducts running horizontally. or as well as it can be mounted like we showed in that ceiling assembly in that horizontal application where, again, the door's opening up and the door, if you wanted to, could open down as well. So getting back kind of the beginning, back to that one mentality. So all of these features, the technology, the innovation that we built into this new interior ready model fits very well into the ONE Series as a whole. So from a design and specification standpoint, you've got your code compliant, high performing unit. You've got that wide CFM range that you can utilize this SKU from plan to plan to plan. You've got that infield selectable airflow configuration, so you're not concerned with complicating that ductwork. You can have a consistent install location. And finally, there's that versatility. Again, we talked about the versatility of having the ability to put this into a ceiling or wall cavity to free up that floor space. Distribution, contractor, anybody and everybody, again, having that one mentality, having to be able to stock, order, and distribute that one SKU provides and simplifies the entire process, provides you that flexibility from a stocking standpoint. Again, you know that because it's been specified the same SKU, you have the ability to bring in that SKU and not worry about, did I get the forecast just right or not? And then ultimately from an install standpoint, so you saw with that in-ceiling application, again, we're providing a truly interior ready or easy to access unit with this design, as well as from a maintenance standpoint. So we're not tucking this away up in an attic space or in a basement or a crawl space. We're going to have easy access to be able to maintain this unit properly and drive awareness, honestly, to that homeowner that, again, you've installed this value item in an ERV or as a fresh air system. Leverage this as an opportunity to sell it to those maybe those prospective home buyers, or point it out to that dwelling occupant that this is providing them better indoor air quality with the different features in which we talked to. We'll go through a little bit of the product performance quick, just some key high-level specs, not undifferent than the other BROAN ONE models that were already launched in the market in May of last year. But so kind of starting out, again, you got the model number there, so that's going to fall into the same BLP 150 model nomenclature. Again, it is an ERV or energy recovery ventilator. The power connection is going to be hardwired, mainly for typically from the National Electric Code, because this can be in a concealed cavity. We do need a hardwired connection there. You can see the CFM values as you increase the static pressure. So again, the same 155 that we've talked about to 138 at 0.6. That recovery efficiency. So again, this is an HVI certified model. You've got those different recovery percentages based on the CFM within that HVI certified test. Same thing for ASRE. So if you're doing any kind of energy modeling, typically this is the metric that you're inputting into the energy modeling, is that percentage value. That's essentially taking out the wattage portion during the HVI certified test and providing that ASRE value. Again, we talked about those energy efficient ECM motors, allowing that flexibility to incrementally change that CFM range. Fan efficacy. So again, you're going to see this CFM per watt requirement. It does vary depending on jurisdiction and what code's being implemented, but do know this above 2 CFM per watt more than satisfies those codes that are being implemented both in the energy code, but also some of those different efficiency programs. Again, I talked about that MERV 8 filter. It is standard. It is washable. You may have noticed we do have MERV 8, that standard MERV 8 filter on both sides of the recovery core. The reason for that is that infield selectable airflow configuration. We want to make sure that whoever's doing that install doesn't have to worry about which side the MERV 8 filter is on for that supplier. We've got them covered on both sides, so they can simply just move that switch and know that outdoor air filter is being provided. As I'd mentioned before, we do have an optional MERV 13 filter that is 2 inches in thickness. That is a disposable paper pleated filter. That actually, in the case of placing that optional MERV 13 filter into the unit, you would actually leave the MERV 8 washable filter on the one side of the recovery core, and you would put the MERV 13 filter opposite. We do have in the instructions, based on the switch position for that infield selectable airflow configuration, on which side of the recovery core that MERV 13 filter would go on. We do get a benefit by keeping that MERV 8 washable filter in there, kind of acts as a pre-filter. So that outdoor air that's coming in is going to pass across that MERV 8 washable filter, go through the recovery core, and ultimately go through that MERV 13 to provide that higher filtration level to the supplier that ultimately enters into the dwelling or the home's air handling system. Knowing this unit was going to be installed in interior space, we did perform sound testing. Within the spec sheet itself, you're going to see a whole array table of different CFMs and different static pressure conditions. We just showed one setting here for this slide deck. So at 0.6 static, you can see the zone level measured at those different CFM values. There isn't a HVI certified test currently for a 4-ducted ERV like this product. We did use an ISO standard that's used for varying appliances like this to determine these sound levels. We have a certified sound lab here that was used to determine these sound levels for these applications. So again, the spec sheet has the full array depending on the CFM, depending on the static pressure, to give you, again, more granularity as to what that zone level is given the CFM chosen, as well as the static pressure expected. As I mentioned before, this is an HVI certified product. You will find, based on the specs shown here, that it can be used to comply with the latest 2021 IECC code, as well as comply to the ASHRAE 90.1, typically used in the commercial code or multifamily type code. It is, like I said, FID compliant or fault indicator display compliant. So it is out on the CEC or the California Title 24 library already as an FID compliant product. It can be used to meet those Energy Star certified home programs and earn those 45L tax credits. So I think as you find, if you're doing the energy modeling and you're trying to get down to those HERS scores or ERI score, that you're going to find this model in any of the models in the BROAN ONE series or even our AI series, that they're going to look quite favorable in providing you those necessary HERS scores or improvements to meet that Energy Star certified home program and ultimately get those 45L tax credits. Quick dimensional overview. So not undifferent than the current BROAN ONE series models. So again, the main difference here is we've got that pre-finished white access door and the trim kit. The LCD screen cover is again that pre-finished white cover, as well as the hardware that mounts it. So again, nothing different compared to the current BROAN ONE series models. Same again, the line voltage connection, the low voltage connections, again, being centered in the unit. And again, we've got that the height and the dimensions related to being able to fit inside those different stud or joist cavities. The unit does come with motorized dampers on both sides, so no additional need for a separate inline damper. The supply damper and the exhaust damper, again, you can see them kind of on the bottom portion of the unit there in the upper right side. Again, those will close when the unit's put into standby and make sure we're isolating the product from, again, whether it's the inside or the outside of the unit. Final piece, outside of just the unit itself, just wanted to highlight late last year, we launched what we call our performance calculator tool. This is a free online tool found on the BROAN website that allows you to basically use for your project. So if there's an application in which you're looking to see how does this product perform given the location of my project, you have the ability to select your unit. You can do that by, if you know the model you want, you can do that, navigate through the tool that way. If you simply just know, I need this amount of CFM for my application, you can go about selecting the unit that way as well. It will generate a report. So if you can kind of see there on the right side, you're going to get your summer design and your winter design conditions based on the weather station data we pull in. You're going to be able to dictate what your return air or basically your indoor conditions are. And then on the bottom side there, you're going to see what the actual performance of the product is, given those inputs for both outdoor and indoor conditions. It also will provide you ASHRAE 90.1 compliance. So you get a little green check mark there to say that you are compliant with ASHRAE 90.1. That is important. Again, it can be found in the code in certain jurisdictions. Just know that this is a report that you can reference to provide that compliance to ASHRAE 90.1. So with that, thank you again for your time. The QR code there, if you scan it, you'll be able to get to a dedicated Broan One landing page to get more exclusive updates as well as information on the products within the Broan One series. So with that, we'll open up to any questions or anything in the Q&A.
I've been kind of answering these as we go. There's a few different ones that I kind of want to point out for people. The spec sheet is going to be a really good location for everything that we have. So like sound ratings, you'll have that whole chart in there, your your curves as well, like Travis was saying, as well as the MERV 13 and MERV 8, how those interact with the airflows and the static pressures. Okay, so some of those are going to be really good. That again is in that spec sheet on that BLP. I did have a question here for we have a builder in New Mexico that exhausts the waste air into a heat pump water heater, and it works. Have you heard of this?
The exhaust air, I guess, that we would push the air from the exhaust into that heat pump water heater, I believe is the question. Or are we asking, can we pull the air from that maybe heat pump water heater closet or area?
It exhausts the waste air into a heat pump water heater.
Okay. We do want, so if I'm reading this correctly, if let's say we're pulling the air from a different spot of the home, we do ultimately want the stale air that is getting post ERV. We do ultimately want that getting to the outside. We don't necessarily be wanting to just push that stale air post ERV back into the space. I understand kind of the application here with the heat pump. I would not, like I said, you'll see it in our manuals, and typically jurisdiction will require it as well, is that stale air post the ERV. So we pull the air from the dwelling, goes through the ERV, and ultimately we ultimately want that to get to the outside. So for various reasons, that's again, both in our manual, but also it's typically, you're going to find it in the building code for that. Looks like maybe one comment did come in.
Yeah, we've got the other one is, what type of interaction do the wall switches have with the ERV? And it's do the wall switches communicate? Do the wall switches communication in the virtual controller, or are they just on-off inputs to the ERV?
Yeah, so you can, I guess there's a number of ways. So the main wall controls, you'll have various functions. You can, we have automatic mode, we have turbo mode, we have some dehumidistat functions as well as different speed settings. So you can do that via the main wall controls that I showed early on, as well as that touchscreen control. Those are all low voltage connections. Those are going to come from the wall control to the ERV. We also have those auxiliary or those boost controls that I also showed. Those are simply going to take the unit from its current setting to the max speed setting on that duration of time. We do have, so how our products are set up is we're just using dry contact, low voltage. So there are a number of situations we've run through where maybe you want maybe an occupancy sensor or some type of other sensor to activate the ERV in a certain way within the LCD screen, and during the configuration process, we really open ourselves up. We can dictate based on that dry contact being closed what operation we want the unit to do is. And so again, if you're using maybe an occupancy sensor, a line voltage occupancy sensor, ultimately we can step that down to a low voltage and use that dry contact being closed to have the unit go into a certain operation.
We had a hand up.
Okay.
But don't see them coming back. So let me go. Oh, here we go. All right, Island Douglas, go for it. Oh, can you even? I don't know if you can unmute.
I'm gonna allow the mic.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And they'll just have to unmute themselves.
Can you unmute yourself, Island Douglas?
If technology isn't our friend, we can always follow up as well.
Okay.
Hey, there we go.
Yep.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
The chat is turned off, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you have any pictures or samples of a sidewall mount, and can the indoor unit be mounted vertically? Is that a problem?
We do have some, I'll say, for the in-wall version. Again, obviously in-wall, we got to be cognizant of the width and the ducts, etc. It's more times than not a non-structural wall. We do have some applications, particularly multifamily, if you're using like a water source heat pump, where you're moving that water source down to that heat pump, maybe or in that indoor unit, like on a low wall. I have seen that in-wall setup. So yeah, we can share those. We have your information from the registration. As it relates to the mounting, just to clarify, the ducts in the, I'll call on-wall setup need to be maintained for horizontally. We could not rotate that unit to be vertically, the ductwork run vertical up and down. Main thing there is how we manage condensation and the recovery core in that type of orientation, particularly when we get to more extreme temperatures on one end or the other, we're generating a lot more condensation. So hopefully that answers your question. If nothing else, again, we can always reach out separately and get into more details.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
I've got one more that I see from Bobby. We are a multifamily contractor in Florida. Any issues with condensate in these units due to high humidity?
Yeah, it's a very common question, Bobby. I guess the short answer is no. We manage the condensation. So if you recall that recovery core at the very beginning, pretty sizable. If we were to deconstruct that and basically lay out every single layer, it would take up a considerable amount of space. So we're not in a position to basically fully saturate that recovery core to the point where it becomes non-functional. We do manage condensation. If we got those short bursts of time, we do manage condensation within the unit itself. And when I say condensation, I'm talking about less than a teaspoon of moisture. There is a condensation tray within the unit as well. So if and when that does make its way to that condensation tray, because we've got air moving through the unit, ultimately does evaporate. But yeah, I would have no concerns, Bobby, in that type of condition where we're going to have condensation issues within the unit itself due to your higher humidity.
And that is the last one that I see.
I do see one from Dwight. Okay, you answered that, Josh. Yeah, it can be run as a bathroom exhaust fan. Yep. All right. We have one more minute. Otherwise, thank you again for everybody's time.
Looks like one more question came in. If there's a power outage, does the unit default back to the startup settings?
Yep. So if there is a power cut for whatever the reason may be, the unit will, once the power is resumed, it'll go back into the setting in which it was in when that power was cut off. So let's say it was running in minimum speed, power gets shut off. When that power gets reconnected, the unit will go back to that minimum speed setting.
All right, looks like another one just came in. Can you comment on the ERV market and the sales figures for ERV units in general and specifically to BROAN ONE Series?
Okay. High level, the ERV market, has seen a significant increase, particularly with energy codes, building codes, accelerating, particularly in the U.S. market. We can't share the particular sales numbers for BROAN ONE. I will say that we need to increase our manufacturing capacity to the point where we will be manufacturing these ultimately in Hartford, Wisconsin, to serve the U.S. market. That'll be coming in time. To also answer, I guess, the next set of questions, does Broan support third-party controllers and allowing customization within the RS-485 protocol? So we do have an RS-485 protocol within the unit itself. We do not currently allow third-party to do anything with that. That's something we program. As relates to third-party controls, like I said, that's where the unit can use dry contact, low voltage dry contact. And then within the unit itself, we can dictate within the dry contact settings in our unit, we can dictate in what operation we want our unit to do when those when the dry contacts are closed. Last question within that, what happens to balance system when disruption is introduced in inflow or outflow? Say a range hood comes on that doesn't have an associated makeup air. So again, this is where the virtual technology comes in. You know, if particularly when we're a smaller dwelling, pressure changes occur more quickly and more significantly. So if we do have, let's say, a range hood kick on and we don't have proper makeup air, in this case, the virtual is going to detect that we've got a higher negative pressure in this situation and make the necessary adjustments to get back to whatever that balanced CFM it was set to in the beginning. So yes, to answer that question, the unit itself will detect that change in condition. We do not suggest, nor do we endorse the ERV as being a makeup air only solution. Typically, your your kitchen range hood is going to be several hundreds of CFM. Where again, as you saw, that this unit's going to max out around 150 CFM. It typically won't provide enough makeup air for that type of application. You also be mindful too of, even though we can boost the unit, we're still also pulling a certain amount of stale air out at the same rate, or maybe unbalance it during that time. We're not going to be able to overcome typically the CFM required for a typical range hood to provide a sole makeup air in this scenario. So good questions overall, Carl. Anything else, Josh?
Not that I can see.
Okay. Scrolling through here too. All right. Again, thank you for all this joined. Appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We're here to support. And thank you again.
Thanks so much.